Hi everyone, welcome to English Story School, where captivating stories come to life and help you master English one tale at a time. Have you ever wondered just how far a simple act of kindness can travel? How it can change someone's day, inspire them to help others, or even transform an entire community? What if there was a way to capture that kindness, to see it grow and multiply, and to understand its true impact on the world around you? Welcome to The Kindness Jar, a story that delves deep into the power of compassion, the beauty of generosity, and the extraordinary effects that even the smallest good deed can have on the world. Ready to embark on a journey filled with heartwarming tales and moments of inspiration? Let's dive in. Our story unfolds in a small, picturesque town nestled in a valley where the hills are green and rolling and the streets are lined with quaint houses that exude warmth and charm. In this town, life moves at a gentle pace. Neighbors greet each other with smiles, children play in the park, and the scent of fresh bread wafts through the air from the local bakery. It's a place where everyone knows each other by name, and where small acts of kindness are as common as the morning dew. But even in a place as peaceful and welcoming as this, there are times when the hustle and bustle of life can make people forget the importance of kindness. That's where our young protagonist, Emily, comes in. Emily is a bright and compassionate girl with a heart as big as the sky. She's always been drawn to stories, especially the ones her grandmother used to tell her about how kindness could change the world, one person at a time. Emily had always been captivated by the stories her grandmother told, tales of kindness that echoed through generations. Her grandmother spoke of a time when small gestures of goodwill could ripple through a community, igniting a spark of hope in even the darkest corners. Inspired by these heartwarming narratives, Emily felt a powerful urge to create something meaningful that would not only honor her grandmother's legacy, but also bring her community together. One evening, as the golden sunset bathed her neighborhood in a warm glow, the idea struck her: the kindness jar. It was a simple yet profound concept. Every time someone performed an act of kindness, whether it was as modest as holding a door open for a stranger or as grand as organizing a charity fundraiser, they would write it down on a small piece of colorful paper. Each note would then find its home in a large, beautifully decorated jar that would sit prominently in the town square, a beacon of positivity. With a burst of enthusiasm, Emily set out to craft the jar. She decorated it with vibrant ribbons, twinkling lights, and painted flowers, transforming it into a work of art that would draw people in. On the day of its unveiling, she invited friends, family, and neighbors to gather around. As she shared her vision, her eyes sparkled with passion. "This jar will be our collective memory," she explained, "a tangible testament to the kindness that surrounds us, reminding us of the good that exists in the world." The community responded with curiosity and excitement. At first, the acts of kindness were small. Mrs. Thompson baked cookies for the local fire department, and little Timmy helped his elderly neighbor with her garden. Each time someone contributed a note, the jar seemed to glow a little brighter. Emily would often pause during her day to check the jar, feeling her heart swell with pride as it filled up with these beautiful snippets of human connection. As weeks turned into months, the impact of the kindness jar began to ripple throughout the community. More people became involved. A local school even initiated a kindness week, where students performed acts of goodwill and wrote them down. They held a contest to see who could fill the most notes, and the school buzzed with stories of compassion, cooperation, and creativity. The jar became a central part of community events, inspiring residents to share their notes aloud during town meetings, igniting laughter, tears, and applause as everyone celebrated the collective spirit of kindness. But it didn't stop there. Emily decided to host a monthly kindness night, where community members gathered to share their experiences. With homemade snacks and a cozy atmosphere, these evenings became a sanctuary of warmth and laughter. People exchanged stories, discussed ways to spread kindness further, and often left with renewed spirits and ideas. The jar served as a reminder that even the smallest actions could lead to profound changes. As the jar grew fuller, it became more than just a collection of notes. It turned into a powerful narrative of hope. On challenging days, when the news seemed heavy with negativity, the jar stood as a beacon of light. Emily would often find herself retreating to the jar, pulling out random notes and reading them. Each story was a reminder of the resilience of the human spirit, a testament to the beauty of empathy and generosity. Eventually, Emily decided to take things one step further. She organized a community kindness day where everyone was encouraged to engage in acts of kindness and share them with the world. Local businesses joined in, offering discounts for those who showed acts of goodwill, creating a whirlwind of positive energy throughout the town. The event culminated in a celebratory gathering where the jar was opened, and the community read the most inspiring notes aloud. Laughter mingled with tears as everyone remembered the moments that had connected them. In the end, the kindness jar became a lasting legacy, embodying the spirit of togetherness and the belief that kindness is not just an act, but a way of life. Emily had sparked a movement, one that reminded everyone that no act of kindness is too small, and that together they could create a tapestry of compassion that would enrich their lives and the lives of those around them. And just like the tales from her grandmother, the stories of kindness would continue to be told, passed down through generations, inspiring even more acts of goodwill in a world that so desperately needed them. At the beginning of Emily's journey with the kindness jar, a whirlwind of emotions swirled within her. Hope danced in her heart, filling her with a vibrant energy that made her feel like she could change the world. Yet this excitement was tinged with uncertainty, a nagging whisper of doubt that followed her like a shadow. She was a young girl, teetering on the precipice of something big, armed with nothing more than an idea and a deep belief in the goodness of people. As she stood in her bedroom, surrounded by colorful papers and glittering decorations for her jar, Emily couldn't help but feel a pang of anxiety. The concept of the kindness jar seemed so simple, almost childlike in its essence. Each act of kindness would be captured in a note, a small, tangible reminder of goodwill and compassion. But as she meticulously crafted her project, her mind raced with questions. Would this idea resonate with her neighbors? Would they see it as valuable, or would they roll their eyes and dismiss it as just another fleeting whim? On the day of the jar's unveiling, she felt a knot tighten in her stomach. Standing in the town square, she took a deep breath and gazed at the crowd of familiar faces gathered around her. The vibrant sun bathed them all in a warm glow, but to Emily, the warmth felt distant, overshadowed by her anxiety. She glanced down at the jar she had decorated with painstaking care, its colorful ribbons fluttering gently in the breeze, and wondered if it would truly inspire others. As she began to speak, her voice wavered slightly. "I want to share something special with you all," she announced, her heart pounding. She explained the concept of the kindness jar, how every note would capture a moment of kindness, no matter how big or small, and how it could become a collective testament to the goodwill in their community. She watched the faces in the crowd, trying to gauge their reactions. Some looked intrigued, while others appeared skeptical. She could feel her hope teetering on a delicate balance between excitement and fear. After her heartfelt introduction, Emily stood back and waited. Would anyone step forward to contribute their first note? A moment stretched into what felt like an eternity. Just as doubt threatened to engulf her, an elderly man named Mr. Thompson shuffled forward, a kind smile spreading across his face. He took a piece of paper and wrote down the time he had helped a neighbor fix her broken fence. His note was a simple gesture, yet it held immense weight. One by one, others began to follow suit, and Emily's heart soared with each note that slipped into the jar. Still, in the back of her mind, doubts lingered. What if this was just a momentary spark? What if, after a week, the jar stood empty, a lonely monument to her dreams? She tried to shake off the worries, reminding herself that even small acts of kindness could lead to profound change. But the fear of the jar fading into obscurity continued to haunt her. As days turned into weeks, Emily remained committed to her project, diligently checking the jar and encouraging her friends to contribute. At first, participation trickled in slowly, but each note filled her with renewed hope. The community began to catch on, and soon, stories of kindness began to bloom around her like wildflowers in spring. Mrs. Lewis, from down the street, baked cupcakes for the school bake sale. Timmy offered to walk the neighborhood dog for an elderly woman. Even the high schoolers organized a fundraiser for the local shelter. Despite the growing involvement, a lingering voice of doubt still whispered in Emily's ear. Would this last? Would the community continue to embrace this initiative, or would they tire of it? The fear of it being dismissed as just another fleeting project loomed large. To combat her uncertainty, Emily found herself immersed in the stories of kindness that filled the jar. Each note was a reminder that her idea had sparked something real, something beautiful. Determined to nurture this newfound spirit, she organized regular gatherings where neighbors could share their stories, reinforcing the bonds within the community. As laughter and camaraderie blossomed, Emily realized that the kindness jar was no longer just her project. It was becoming a living tapestry of shared experiences. The notes were no longer merely pieces of paper. They were testimonies of human connection, capturing the essence of their collective spirit. Through the ups and downs, Emily's hope transformed into a quiet confidence. While uncertainty had been her initial companion, it gradually faded into the background, replaced by the vibrant energy of community engagement. She understood now that while she had taken the first step, the journey of the kindness jar belonged to everyone. It wasn't about the jar itself, but about the kindness that flowed from it, creating ripples of goodwill that spread far beyond its confines. As Emily continued her journey, she discovered that stepping out of her comfort zone had not only enriched her life, but had also inspired those around her. The kindness jar was no longer just a project. It had blossomed into a movement, a reminder that kindness could thrive in the most unexpected of places, bringing together hearts and weaving a fabric of unity that shone brightly against the tapestry of life. Emily's uncertainty is understandable. She's asking the entire town to pause in their busy lives and take the time to reflect on the kindness around them, to write down these moments on small slips of paper, and to contribute them to a collective jar. It's a request for people to not only recognize the kindness they experience or witness, but to actively record and share it with others. In a world where everyone is constantly moving forward, caught up in their own concerns, this might seem like a lot to ask. But Emily's belief in the power of kindness is unwavering. She knows that kindness, no matter how small, can have a significant impact, and she's determined to prove it. As she shares her idea with her neighbors, friends, and even strangers in the town, something magical begins to happen. Emily's enthusiasm is not just evident, it's contagious. The way she talks about the potential of the kindness jar, the way her eyes light up when she describes how each slip of paper represents a moment of goodness, touches the hearts of those she speaks to. People begin to see the vision that Emily has. They start to imagine how their small acts of kindness could contribute to something much larger than themselves, something that could bring the entire community together. As time went by, the kindness jar blossomed into something far greater than Emily ever imagined. What had started as her humble project quickly transformed into a beloved symbol of community spirit, uniting the town in ways that words alone could not express. The once empty jar, now nestled on a sturdy table in the heart of the town square, became a vibrant hub of activity, its presence commanding attention and inviting participation. Every day the sun would rise over the square, casting warm rays on the colorful decorations that adorned the jar. With each passing hour, the jar began to fill, one slip of paper at a time. The townsfolk, initially hesitant, now approached it with eager hearts and open minds. As they strolled through the square, many paused to reflect on their own experiences, inspired by the stories of kindness they had witnessed or been a part of. Look! A young girl named Lucy exclaimed one morning, tugging on her mother's sleeve. Can we write something for the jar? Her eyes sparkled with excitement as she clutched a crayon and a piece of paper. Her mother smiled, recognizing the transformation happening before her eyes. Of course, sweetheart. Let's think of something nice we can share. The duo huddled together, brainstorming ideas. Lucy decided to write about the day she had shared her lunch with a classmate who had forgotten theirs. As she placed her note into the jar, the pride on her face radiated pure joy, and her mother couldn't help but beam with delight at her daughter's thoughtfulness. Meanwhile, others watched and began to feel that familiar tug of inspiration. Mr. and Mrs. Jensen, the friendly couple known for their unwavering support of local charities, approached the jar one afternoon. With a shared smile, they each took a turn to drop in notes detailing their recent efforts to organize a clothing drive for those in need. They had been touched by the overwhelming generosity of the community, and their notes encapsulated their gratitude and joy. As the days turned into weeks, the jar overflowed with stories, each piece of paper a unique testament to the impact of small acts of kindness. Some notes were heartfelt and intimate, recounting moments that tugged at the heartstrings, like the one from Emily's friend Sarah, who wrote about the time she comforted a distraught classmate after a tough day. Others were light-hearted, capturing humorous encounters, like when Timmy had shared his favorite toy with his little brother without being asked. The jar soon became a magnet for the community, drawing people in as if it were a campfire around which everyone wanted to gather. On weekends, families made it a tradition to visit the jar, sharing their own acts of kindness and reading the notes that others had left behind. Laughter and conversations bubbled up around the table, fostering a sense of belonging that was palpable. The kindness jar was not just a collection of notes. It was a living archive of the shared values and connections that defined their town. To celebrate the growing participation, Emily organized a Kindness Day event, inviting everyone to share their stories aloud. The town square transformed into a festive gathering place, decorated with colorful banners and cheerful music. Emily stood proudly next to the jar, her heart swelling with joy as she watched her friends and neighbors share their acts of kindness with the community. The air was filled with laughter, applause, and even a few happy tears as people recounted the beautiful ways they had supported one another. As the kindness jar continued to overflow, Emily realized that it had become a powerful reminder of the goodness in the world. Each note represented a thread in the fabric of their community, woven together by moments of generosity, compassion, and love. It was a testament to the idea that kindness, no matter how small, could make a significant impact. News of the kindness jar spread beyond the town's borders, attracting attention from neighboring communities. Emily found herself receiving messages from other towns eager to start their own versions of the project. Inspired by the success of the jar, she began to share her story, creating a ripple effect that extended far and wide. The kindness jar had morphed into something much bigger than a simple container for notes. It became a movement. People began to share not just their own stories, but also ideas for spreading kindness further. The town organized volunteer opportunities, surprise acts of kindness for those in need, and even collaborative projects that brought generations together. The once quiet square now thrummed with energy and optimism, a vibrant reflection of the values the jar had ignited. In the end, what Emily had envisioned as a modest initiative had evolved into a beacon of hope, a physical manifestation of the beauty of kindness. The jar stood tall and full, a symbol of the collective heart of the town, reminding everyone that, indeed, the simplest acts of generosity could create ripples of change that transformed not just a community, but lives. Emily had learned that when people come together to share their stories, they can create a tapestry rich with warmth, understanding, and a profound sense of belonging. And as the kindness jar continued to fill with stories, Emily knew that this was just the beginning of a beautiful journey toward a kinder world. As the days go by and the jar fills up, something incredible begins to unfold within the community. The town, already known for its close-knit atmosphere, begins to feel even more connected. People start to look out for each other more. They go out of their way to offer a helping hand, a kind word, or a smile to a stranger. The simple act of contributing to the kindness jar shifts their focus outward, making them more aware of the needs of others and more willing to meet those needs. It's as if the jar itself is a magnet for goodwill, drawing out the best in everyone. The kindness jar quickly becomes more than just a physical object. It becomes a symbol of the town's collective spirit. Every time someone walks by it, they're reminded of the good that exists in their community. It's a tangible representation of the kindness that flows through the town, a daily reminder that even in the smallest actions, there is great power. As the jar fills, so too does the town's sense of unity. The stories inside the jar aren't just stories. They're pieces of a larger narrative that binds the community together, creating a shared experience that everyone takes part in. But the beauty of the kindness jar doesn't stop at the town's borders. Like the ripples from a pebble dropped into a pond, the impact of the jar begins to spread. One day, a traveler passes through the town. She's intrigued by the jar, and as she listens to the townspeople talk about it, she's inspired. She sees the potential of the kindness jar, not just for this town, but for her own city as well. When she returns home, she shares the idea with her community, and they too start their own kindness jar. The idea catches on, and soon, kindness jars begin popping up in towns and villages, far beyond the original one. What started as a small project in one town becomes a global phenomenon, a movement that transcends borders and cultures. Each new jar, in each new town, is a testament to the universality of kindness and the power it has to bring people together. The kindness jar movement becomes a unifying force, showing people from all walks of life that despite their differences, they are all capable of and responsible for spreading kindness in their own communities. In the end, Emily's simple idea has a profound impact, not just on her town, but on the world. The kindness jar becomes a symbol of hope and connection, reminding people everywhere that even the smallest act of kindness can create ripples of change that spread far beyond what they could ever imagine. For Emily, the most rewarding part is hearing the stories from people she's never met, people whose lives have been touched by the simple act of writing down a kind deed and placing it in a jar. She realizes that kindness is a universal language, one that transcends borders and brings people together in ways that nothing else can. Of course, the journey isn't without its challenges. There are times when the excitement wanes, when some people in the town start to question whether their small acts of kindness really make a difference. The jar, once overflowing with stories, sometimes sits half empty for days. Emily begins to wonder if the project will fade away, just another good idea, lost to the demands of everyday life. But Emily's resolve is strong. She knows that kindness, like any other virtue, requires nurturing and persistence. She decides to reinvigorate the project, organizing community events, sharing stories from the jar at town meetings, and reminding everyone of the impact they've already had. Slowly but surely, the jar begins to fill again, and the town rediscovers the joy of giving. Then, one day, something extraordinary happens. Emily pulls a slip of paper from the jar that tells a story, unlike any other. It's a story about a man who, in a moment of deep despair, received a simple gesture of kindness that gave him hope when he needed it most. This one act, seemingly small at the time, set off a chain reaction that led to a profound transformation in his life. The man went on to become a mentor to others, passing on the kindness he had received and helping countless people find their own paths to happiness. This story, like so many others in the kindness jar, is a powerful reminder that no act of kindness is ever wasted. Each one has the potential to change a life, to inspire others, and to create a legacy of compassion that endures long after the moment has passed. As the years go by, the kindness jar becomes more than just a project. It becomes a cherished tradition, passed down from one generation to the next. New jars are started, new stories are added, and the spirit of kindness continues to thrive in the town and beyond. What began as a simple idea has grown into a legacy, a testament to the power of community and the enduring impact of even the smallest acts of kindness. For Emily, the kindness jar is a lifelong journey, one that has brought her endless joy and fulfillment. And for the town, it's a symbol of what they can achieve when they come together with open hearts and a shared commitment to making the world a better place. As we close the chapter on the kindness jar, we're reminded that kindness is a gift that keeps on giving. It doesn't require grand gestures or extraordinary efforts, just a willingness to make a difference, one small act at a time. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time.